lost episodes tonight. We'll work left to right, and I am quite excited for this one. So let's put aside our other 6, open up our first deck, and get our night underway. And just for those of you who would like a deck, I have an extra one of this one. So if you'd like a chance at that, let me know, and I will message you back if you have won. But anyway, besides that, this is a video I've been wanting to do for a long time, and now the time feels right. For those of you watching this at a later date, this was recorded a little bit after the passing of Akira Toriyama. And honestly, that was a bit of a surprise to me in many facets. I just didn't think something like that would make me reflect on my life as much as I have. So we'll be discussing the greatness of Dragon Ball throughout tonight, the gift we were given thanks to one man. So with all of that being said, please get yourselves nice and comfy, and let's play a very special version of Solitaire. Honestly, it's just very powerful that one person's ideas can connect so many people in many different ways. I'm sure most of you already know many of the connections that have been shared already to this point, but to me, it's just awesome. And instead of being sad, I am just happy that we are able to connect over something so wonderful in its own way, thanks to one person. For myself, Akira Toriyama was actually a pretty big inspiration in many ways. I'm sure most of you can relate in some ways. As a matter of fact, the name of this channel was inspired by Dragon Ball, if you didn't know. And just many decisions I've made throughout life, lots of my highest highs and guidance through my lowest lows, were guided with Dragon Ball. One of my earliest memories was sitting in front of the television with my brother, watching the Android Saga on Toonami. It was specifically the episode when Dr. Gero started running from the Z Fighters through the mountains. And in case you're wondering why, we're playing 3-card draw, so we can only play on the 3rd card and then the previous 2, just in case there's some confusion. Anyway, I remember watching that, and then a couple episodes later, seeing that the androids appear from their hiding, and Vegeta, Trunks, Piccolo, Gohan instantly resonated with me. And this is back when I was about 3 years old, and I was instantly hooked. Then, Dragon Ball didn't resemble much to me besides entertainment, and little did I know it was something that my brother and I would be able to connect on very deeply up until a bit older than me, and he messaged me out of the blue, just saying, "It's a very sad day." And I know he probably gave it some reflection and realized that Dragon Ball was one of the things that we could connect with when we were younger, before everything and everyone got busy. Moving on, Dragon Ball also, when I became older, let's do that, put down that 18, was actually the first video game I ever purchased. So when I was younger, for Christmas I received a PlayStation 2, and back then that was amazing, as that is the end to our first game. Nowhere for any of these cards to make a play. So on to our next deck. Again, let me know if you'd like this deck. It's a very simple deck. It's nice. It's really just, in my opinion, good for the illustrations and to have around. Anyway, I received a PlayStation 2 for Christmas, and my first game for the PlayStation 2 was the Simpsons game, for those of you who remember that one. But shortly after Christmas is my birthday, and my brother and sister planned for me a couple more games, and those games were Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 and Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Let's put that back in the box and move on to our next deck. Tonight's just mainly going to be talking, just in case you're wondering. And little did I know those games would have such a resonating long-term relationship with me. Oh yeah, if you like Dragon Ball stuff, sorry it sounds a little bit out of place. To me it feels it, but I just finished up doing a Dragon Ball series on my game channel. These are tough to open. I'll leave a link right there to that. They're fun. It's a bit different than I am in these videos. I let myself get taken over into the joyous world of a challenge. These are pretty cool. I like this one a lot. That's actually pretty sweet. Awesome jokers. Give it a look, subscribe, hang out. Just to connect that too. I kind of started my channel, my gaming channel too, with the focus of wanting to play that game, because that game in my childhood would connect my brother and I to a very interesting level. Since he's quite a bit older than me, he would have things to do throughout the day and be busy. And when he got back late and I was waiting for him to spend time with him after school, he would pop in Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 into the PlayStation. He would play a little bit and then give me some challenges. And we would play that for hours until it was time for us to go to bed, and we would repeat the next day. And for some of us, it's kind of hard to talk to our siblings at points, especially when you're younger, and you don't know how valuable those moments are and how precious they will be in the future. So for all of you older siblings out there, connect with your younger ones, and they'll forever remember them and love you for it. I remember how we would just laugh pretty much all the time and just share so much joy and happiness and lots of profanities along the way with the challenges he would give me. And the challenges in my game channel pretty much stem from those types of encounters with my brother. So after a bit from there, I wanted to learn more about Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, and just understand him more. And it was kind of tough back then. But every time I put in my Dragon Ball Z box set disc into the PlayStation to watch it, I was always appreciative for the gift of just a childlike wonder fantasy world. And for myself, I was never really one to get into fantasy or believe things that were animated. I was more of a realism type person. I didn't like Disney stuff. I never watched a lot of famous Disney movies, but Dragon Ball, for whatever reason, really stuck with me and resonated. And if I take a little bit of a pause, I'm just trying to remember where I left off. Okay, also, something I would do often is that when I was younger, around the same time my brother realized we were connecting with Dragon Ball. And for my next birthday, he bought me box sets of the TV show. And I would watch that every night to fall asleep. Dragon Ball was my ASMR. I would have it on, specifically the filler episodes where Gohan and Piccolo would be training during the Saiyan Saga. They would be searching around Namek looking for the Dragon Balls. Those were my moments before sleep for hundreds of nights, as that is the end to our second game, as there's nowhere for that 9, Jack, 10, 5, 4, King, and lastly, King. So on to our next deck. Tough game. And being my young self, I took great appreciation in having a place to be a little bit of a second home, a world to have a second home. As I know for some of us growing up, we didn't have the best presence in guidance, and you don't really know that until you're older because you don't know any better. And throughout my development from the age of 3 till now, Dragon Ball's pretty much been one of the only constants. Anyway, let's get on to the next deck and continue a bit. So, as I was saying with the box sets, I would just be so appreciative for Toriyama giving me a world to where I could just check out and enjoy just the ambience of the music, the soft visuals, the touching connections between Gohan, Piccolo, Goku, Krillin, and kind of guided a little bit of my moral compass and what things actually mattered. Another cool deck, by the way. And growing up, I didn't really talk much about it with my friends. They just knew I was someone who liked Dragon Ball. And all throughout elementary school, nobody knew what Dragon Ball was. Until 5th grade, one girl did, and we made a little connection over it. years that I did, and it was much easier to develop those strong friendships with people I knew had the same values with me of being a loyal person, trying to do your best for others, care for those close to you, and make the sacrifices needed to make the situation better. But I'll go back. I wasn't done with the younger childhood. So I figured out more about Toriyama and discovered he did a series called Dr. Slump. And for those of you who don't know, that was his first real manga with a Rayleigh. And it was what opened the door to Dragon Ball. I could never really find it back then. But as the growing fascination with Dragon Ball grew, my brother found ways for it to connect better with us. I live in California, and back when I was a kid, it wasn't as it was now with the integration of Japanese culture in the store. Like, you could go to Target and buy Dragon Ball Z action figures. You could go to discount stores and find all this Dragon Ball stuff and countless animes. But when I was younger, it was just Pokemon and maybe one Dragon Ball booster pack in the entire store. And maybe the DVDs if you were lucky. So knowing that, my brother and I would make a tradition at least a couple times a year to travel to San Francisco's Japantown, where we could find all of the Japanese imported goods, specifically looking for Dragon Ball items. And that's where you would buy many manga, all of the Z manga, the Dragon Ball as well. We would get action figures, statues, little toys, games, and candies, as I believe we just had, one play to save it. And it created a connection in hindsight that my brother and I would share those memories that would live on forever thanks to Dragon Ball creating that connection. From my understanding, it's a bit tough sometimes for an older sibling to connect with a younger one, especially when there's a larger age gap. But when there is something to find that, it just makes it so much easier to really form a lasting connection and relationship. So pretty much all throughout my childhood, we would do that into my early teens before that was no longer a real possibility. By the way, end of this game, we're just having a tough night. Pretty much all black cards keeping us back as there's nowhere for any of those on the field and onto our next deck. Alright, back to the childhood. So Dragon Ball was very, very niche growing up. Everyone just gave me a confused look whenever I mentioned something, so I just learned to just keep it and enjoy it to myself. But I always carried little things around mentally about it and kept it close. And for the longest time, there was nothing new coming from Dragon Ball. And when I discovered about the Resurrection Battle of Gods movie, that was just joy, like you probably could imagine. So let's move on to the high school years. In high school, my family didn't really, due to circumstances, I was fairly unhealthy. I grew very overweight in medical aspects. I played sports. I wasn't too bad. It's just I know I wasn't on a good trend overall. So we have constant junk food and things that were just unhealthy for us around the house, just out of convenience and circumstance. And when Dragon Ball Super, the movies and that stuff came out more, I decided, you know what? Probably like a lot of people you might know, I'm going to use this as fuel to make myself better. Using that childlike connection to resonate deep inside of myself. So I took on a completely new mindset as before, and within 2 weeks of trying to lose weight, I went from 240 pounds down to 185 pounds in 2 weeks. I would relentlessly train, exercise, practice my sports every day, and just have the strictest of discipline, taking nothing for granted and doing the best I could for myself. I'd have Dragon Ball on in the background to kind of motivate me, as well as baseball stuff. And in that summer, I dropped, I believe, 65 pounds. I went from 240 to 170, but I wanted to stay at 175. And because of that, just big chain of events, of circumstance from Dragon Ball, I bettered myself in ways I never thought possible. It's just crazy how something so small and seemingly insignificant at the time is just, oh yeah, I like that show, it's cool, it's fun, can carry so much onto you in the future. And with that is just an immense amount of appreciation for Akira Toriyama. And that's why, when I learned of his passing, I was a bit sad at first, since I know he was more excited about Dragon Ball. He kind of stopped Dragon Ball because it wasn't as fun for him, so it ended somewhat abruptly. And then over the years, that passion came back, and stronger than ever. And unfortunately, when he was just getting more involved, as he's been in some time, he has left this world to another. But instead of feeling sad about what will not happen, what will be missed, I'm just incredibly happy of what has already been given. Just thanks to one man. It's really insane to think about for me. So this video initially was meant to come out like in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Something like that. But I've been wanting to do this. I've been having a lot of these thoughts just kind of circle around in my head. And tonight I wanted to express some of them, to see if any of us share similar experiences, or maybe you realize something that I realized, that it was a constant in the life, and help form connections that have lasted a lifetime, thanks to one person. And there we go. I hope I don't sound too repetitive, so apologies if I do. It's kind of hard to express something that's very close to you when you have pretty much endless things to say. So I'll kind of limit it there. I think you got the point, and I hope some of you connect to that as well. Just an amazing gift given to us, as it looks like our night has been just ridiculously tough. As there's nowhere for that 6, nowhere for that 10, nowhere for this queen, nowhere for this king, and lastly, nowhere for that king. There are no plays left on the field, so we move on to next deck, our 5th game, and hopefully we can go a little bit further than we have been. Silly deck. I'm not too much of a fan of the larger head style. It's not bad, it's just a little silly, not my preference. Like that Gohan looks a little bit, you know. Yeah, just so many cards left unturned tonight. And there we go, all of those doubles in there. If you feel comfortable, or if you'd like, what is your connection to Dragon Ball? How did you discover it? What are your takeaways from it? This deck is fun. I like the Gogeta. It's just very weird how at points in my life, when things were pretty tough, it seemed to come back just when it needed to, in some way or another. Whether it was a movie, whether it was the show, the anime coming back. Just one of those constants that just sometimes forgotten. Alright. Let's go a little bit more upbeat and talk about our favorite saga. Why not? And by the way, I'm pretty sure I have another one of these decks around. So, if I'm able to find it, I'll give you this one and this one. And I even might have one more, so 3 possible decks if I could find them all. So let me know if you'd like that. Alright, besides that, I just remembered it because this deck was in perfect order, and I didn't leave it in perfect order. So that must mean this is a duplicate. So my first saga was the Android saga. My most familiar saga is the Saiyan and Frieza saga, or Namek saga. I've seen all of Dragon Ball Z, GT, the movies, Super. The only thing I have not kept up with was Heroes. But besides that, I'm pretty much all in with the movies and shows. And by all the movies, I'm talking about pretty much 20 plus Dragon Ball movies. But I haven't seen the original Dragon Ball movies, but I'm gonna start that soon. So favorite saga from Z. Honestly, it's not the most popular, but I enjoy it the most. Is the Boo saga. So many silly quirks. So many moments that just, I don't know, it just felt the most comforting after a while. It was the most recent saga I've seen, because back when I was younger, they didn't really have the Boo saga on DVD, just on VHS. So it was really tough I just decided not to watch it until I could in its entirety. And when I did, it did not disappoint. And just so many cool moments, and the conclusion of Z as well. Kid Buu. The Bobbity Egg situation. Majin Vegeta. Little quirkiness of Gohan and Videl. Just a lot to love. As finally it looks like we're having a decent game. As we have double 9-7s on the field with some kings. For Dragon Ball, that's a tougher one. I really enjoyed pretty much all of the tournaments a lot. I think of my favorite tournaments from then was maybe the fight with Tien. The Piccolo one was cool, but it felt more of a wrap-up and too familiar to Z. It was so confusing, jumping straight into Dragon Ball Z, since it felt like you were missing something. And once you have the entire context, it really makes it much more enjoyable moving forward. Especially the connections between Krillin and Goku, and why the Namek Saga was as important as it was. Because you get little bits of hints of what happened, but seeing the full thing clarifies a lot. I didn't know Chaozu was a big jerk like he was. That was pretty funny. What else? The Red Ribbon Army was very fun to watch, that saga. That's probably my toughest decision to make for Dragon Ball. I guess I'll say the tournament with Tien, because there's lots of filler in there. No, Red Ribbon. Red Ribbon takes it for me, officially. GT. Oh, that's interesting. I guess I'll just say the conclusion. Nothing in GT was too great in my opinion. It was just a familiar joy to have on and to experience. Just, I'm not going to spoil too much, just in case you decide to watch it at some point, if you haven't. But lots of interesting moments, especially with Super Saiyan 4. It's neat how Super Saiyan 4 used to get a lot of crap, but now it's kind of become more popular. Just as the Buu Saga was pretty much one of the lame ones. Super Saga, alright. That one is tricky. I think I like the movies more than anything from Super, come to think of it. Looks like that's all we could do. I guess the Universal Survival arc is probably the easiest answer. Black was fun, but the ending wasn't my cup of tea. As there's nowhere for that 7, nowhere for that 9, and nowhere for that 8. A much better game. Ultimately the same results. So we move on to our next deck. Deck number, what is that? 6. Oh, wait a second. Wait a darn second. That's why we always do our checks as we do. So we put back our ace, 2, ace, ace, and 2. And we are in the same order we were before. Alright, now what? We could bounce that 2 over there, put down Nowhere for that 9 and nowhere for that 8. But can we build? Oh no. Do we have the 5 of spades? Yes, we do. Oh, wait a second. But we don't have the 4. Yeah, that's the end of this one. Unfortunately. Yeah. At least we know and won't wonder what if. Yeah, I guess Universal Survival Arc, because just the cool moments, and especially towards the end of it, where it connected more of the Dragon Ball aspects to it. Alright, let's go. Favorite movie. Favorite movie is probably Battle of Gods. For now. It opened the door to Super. It was so nice seeing a new, refreshing group and more relevance than there was before. And just knowing more Dragon Ball was to come. Resurrection F was alright, but not the best. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but could have been a little better. Broly was really good. I wasn't too much of a fan of the superhero. I enjoyed it, but the animation was just too different. It was too computerized for my tastes, and feels like it just was a convenience thing, but it was still something new and something to enjoy. Alright, favorite Z movie is probably Janemba was fun, Harudagon was fun. So one of those two. Alright, let's do favorite intro, why not? Chala and Shala was probably, that sounds like a Hebrew saying Shala and Shala. Anyway, was the thing I think we're almost all of us are more familiar with. Hate it if you do, but I think Dan Dan is probably one of the better Dragon Ball intro songs and outro. It was so good that Dragon Soul pretty much had to copy it. So Dan Dan is my favorite intro song, next to the OG Dragon Ball opening and the outro for the Dragon Ball, the one with Bulma staring through a window. And Angel was a very nice Dragon Ball outro from the Boo saga. Let's keep the questions going. Favorite enemy. Favorite enemy. Broly's one of the cooler enemies. Janemba, also very cool. I just remembered the clone thing from Super. Very silly. I think Frieza, especially with Chris Aries' voice. Another one taken too quickly. But I often believed that sadly, some of the greater people are taken a bit young. Or earlier. It feels like they leave earlier than they should. Anyway, Frieza I think is the good one since he reoccurs, and now apparently he's black. Or something. And we are good, it looks like. I really enjoy Beerus a lot. I think more than I should. I don't really know too many people who like Beerus that much, but I think he's one of the better things to have happened to the show. Or series. I see it, don't worry. Alright, so here's a good one. What is your favorite Dragon Ball game? Now there are so many good options here. And just because it's the favorite doesn't mean it's the best. For example, Xenoverse 2 is one of my favorites just because it is so friendly to fans with the add-ons it gives, such as music, roster, updates, events, pretty much having Dokkan Battle inside the game with the figure Coliseum. A little goofy with the story mode, I will admit, but besides that, it's still very playable, as it looks like that's the end of our 6th game, as there's nowhere for that 7, 9, 3, 2, 10, and lastly 8. Tough game. It just feels like we're not playing as much of our foundation cards as we should. Alright, on to deck number 7. So Xenoverse 2 I could pick up pretty much any time, and I could find something to do, whether it's a raid event or just an event in general. Wow, triple fours. The story mode parallel quest, trying to bulk up a figure. Go through some extras for 100% completion, extra parallel quest here, dialogue. The figure Coliseum. It's just, for me, hard to get tired of. But one of the best games to play when you're in the mood has to be Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. I have played the crap out of that game. You can't, like, if you want to play it, you want to play it, but if you don't want to play it, you could pass on it. Just seriously check out the game channel. There are so many different, like that. There are so many different challenges from there. It's just really fun. It gets a little raunchy, just in case you're curious. But it is just so fun. If you haven't played it, it's hard to beat. So I think that's my favorite one overall. And I think one of my friend's favorite is, what's it? Boo's Fury for Game Boy Advance. I played it, and it's actually pretty fun. I love myself a good RPG game, and throw in Dragon Ball. How could you go wrong? I have Kakarot, but I haven't really played beyond the first 20 minutes. I just need more time to be able to have a real fun, immersive experience. Raging Blast, I've heard quite a bit about. I have it for, I think, the Xbox 360 or something, but in comparison to Tenkaichi 3, it doesn't quite do it for me. I think Tenkaichi 3 is one of the best 1 vs 1 or 5 vs 5 formats there could be, especially for its time. I have never played Budokai 3. I wanted to, but it was so hard to find, and I still couldn't find it. So that one, I don't know. I have a feeling I would enjoy it a lot for its Easter eggs. not save the best for last. Alright. Can we get ourselves a win? Ooh, that's actually very good. That sets us up quite a bit. Oh, and I remember watching Battle of Gods and thinking, oh, now they're Super Saiyan God, how can they go further? Silly me. I should know there's always another step to go with this show. Ever since I was a kid, no way Goku can be beaten after the Saiyan Saga. No way there's somebody stronger. Alright, well if he uses Kaioken, they're done. Okay, now he's Super Saiyan. That's the ultimate form. Now there's an Ascended Saiyan. Alright, that's new. So that's in the back pocket. Now there's Super Saiyan 2. Alright, show me Super Saiyan 3. Super Saiyan 3 comes. It's the peak of power. Too much for the body to handle for too long. Shortens your life. So that has to be the final form. The strongest form. Then GT comes. Alright, Super Saiyan 4. And it's a little silly, but actually very cool. Then after that, alright, let's go Google Super Saiyan 100. I know I did that as a kid. I typed in Super Saiyan 100, then like Super Saiyan 1 trillion. As many zeros I could put in. And I think we all know that. That search results as we're... There we go. I was thinking we should play that too. Oh, Jocko flipped. And then after when Super came, I wondered how it could, what's the new power up, because there's always been legendary Super Saiyan. Will they achieve legendary? If so, that somewhat takes away from Broly's coolness. No. There is a god ritual to where then it could be obtained after that point. Alright, cool. Then blue, it's like, okay, now they could just go any color through the rainbow. And they're gonna have to convince me, but it won't be too hard to do that if they've got me in with Super Saiyan Blue. Such a different tone from the beginning. It's always interesting to me how things can just kind of, over the course of a minute, a couple seconds, an hour, a day, how things can seemingly do a complete 360. Let's wait and see if we have an earlier red 9 that might make more of a difference. Oh, another question. What is your favorite deck so far? Or what's your favorite deck of the night? I'll ask that again later, since we have one more, but out of these 7, which one's your favorite? Alright, let's see how much we could build. 2, 3, and time for our double check. Nowhere for that 8. Nowhere for that 8. Nowhere for that 5. And nowhere for that 3. Sometimes it feels like a double deal, but I did not, unfortunately. On to our final deck of the night, and in my opinion, regardless, if we don't win a game tonight, something I learned from Dragon Ball is just because you lose doesn't mean you don't win. And that's something that's very applicable in my life for many, many instances. And those are probably the best Jokers you'll ever see. And look at that back design. Okay, those decks were all probably like $7 a piece, $5 maybe. This deck cost $25 freaking dollars. But you know, if you don't already, I love myself some Dragon Ball, so I will take that gladly. Kami and Demon King. Because it's just so neat, rare, and close to me. The face cards are just awesome too. Got Krillin's bald head right there. And here we go. Oh, that one's really cool. Final game of the night. How will we end it? No clue, but one thing's for sure. I've just enjoyed this journey. It feels nice to share some of the thoughts I've been having the past several days. And I hope you've gotten something from this video too, whatever it may be. Alright, final game, here we come. And there we go. Final game of the night. Let's do this. You know what? This looks to be a fairly tough start. But let's not worry about it. Let's just enjoy the game at hand. My bad, I'm just very tired. Okay. I think, oh no, that card right there opens the door for at least another round. And so does that 10. I was gonna say, it doesn't look too good. But now, it just looks like we might have a chance to last a little bit longer. Okay, that's tough right there. Let's wait, actually. It doesn't matter quite yet. It could only potentially hurt us at the moment. That's what I mean by saying it could only hurt us. Now we open the door for that side to open up a bit, since I've noticed we didn't have too many kings lying around. Alright, better than we were. And unfortunately, that looks to be the end to our night. We at least got one fat stack, as there's nowhere for that king, nowhere for that 10, 6, 10, and lastly, queen. Oh well, it was still a very nice night. I'm glad to have spent it with you. One more time. If you'd like a deck, maybe more, just let me know. I'll message you back if you have one. I'll pick at random. Check out the game channel. Something I'm actually quite proud of about it is that, for me, as you know now, Dragon Ball has given me the gift of so many gifts, but one of them just being an immense amount of joy and happiness. And I hope through that channel, through the Dragon Ball videos, I should say, that you find some laughter and some joy. All thanks to Akira Toriyama. So, the last couple things I'd like to say tonight as we clear up the field and say our farewell is that I hope you have yourself a relaxing remainder of your night. Many, many sweet dreams. Until we meet again, my friend. Please stay safe. Eat your fruits and vegetables. And one last time, I'd like to say, much love to Akira.